It's Not War, Just the End of Love, the brand new single by the Manic Street Preachers. James Dean Bradfield, welcome back to The Beat.
How are you doing there, Dean?
I was going to say return to form, but I'm not sure form ever went away, really. But there's something about that single. It's pristine in every single way. Congratulations on it.
Oh, cheers, sir. No, I mean, I think, when we were coming off the back of Journal for Plague Lovers, we were kind of... I think subconsciously it came out in the wash that we wanted to do something which had a bit more of an anthemic nature to it, because Journal for Plague Lovers was something which was very much more intense and disciplined. In combination with this being our 10th studio album and coming off the back of something which was so intense, I think we just wanted to do something which just had a bit more of an escapist nature to it, and we wanted to almost feel as if we could fly along with the music. So, I think you're constantly and utterly confronted with the fact that you're a 41-year-old in a band that's released his 10th record, and I think there is something inside of you that just wants to prove to people that you can still do it, I suppose.
Well, I was going to ask you about this magical number 10 as well. I mean, I don't know if this is of any significance to you or not, but you've been fans of round numbers. Remember wanting the first number one of the new millennium and so on. So, So is the 10 of any significance?
I don't think you can escape it, really. I just don't. I think that, I think once you've been in a four-piece that had some kind of perfect symmetry, because when Nick and Richey used to be the flying wingers on stage, and I was the utilitarian ditch digger in the middle, kind of thing. I think once you've been part of something which has that kind of symmetry, you do kind of like to feel as if you're part of a unit, you're part of something which is neat and tidy that can go into battle, kind of thing. And I think we're those kind of people, and the 10th studio album, from a band is kind of a rare achievement, really. I think the average lifespan for a band is something like 1.8 records or something, and so to get your 10th studio album is a big achievement, and it does feel as if you've got to try and achieve something or celebrate it even. Now,
you've been through all kinds of... You've had a tumultuous time as the Manic Street Preachers, and you mentioned there the average lifespan being 1.8 albums. How come you're still going after all you've been through by album 10? How's it still held together?
I think there are two main reasons for it. The main reason is that we've all known each other since we were born. Nick's been my best friend since I was 5. Well, I thought he was my best friend when I was 5, kind of thing. Perhaps he had other ideas. I've known Sean since he was born because he's my cousin, and he is my brother, virtually, really. Yeah. We were all friends before we became musicians. Richey I'd known since I was 9 years old. And so it means that you can't have those battles that other musicians have, because some musicians get together to be in a band and they don't know each other before they start making music with each other, and then by the time they get in their second album they realise they don't like each other. Whereas, and I think the other reason that we've stayed together is that we've always had two versions of the band. There's been the version of the band that does Everything Must Go and Send Away the Tigers and Postcards from a Young Man, and then there's the other version of the Manics that does Holy Bible and Journal for Plague Lovers. And so I think whenever we've had the feeling that we want to escape the band, we just go into the other version, we just go into the other host of the Manic Street Preachers, and that's given us something to escape to in the bad times, I think.
The Manic Street Preachers, I'm Leaving You. Free track available for download from their website now. Their new album is imminent, and as is their new single. I caught up with James Dean Bradfield earlier in the week. The Manics have been long-term friends of the Beat, going way, way back. So I can ask him questions that perhaps other people might not be able to get away with, like this one. Now, I read somewhere that, and this may be a complete misquote, so shoot me down in flames if it is, that you want this one last shot at mass communication. Now, is this a famous Nicky soundbite, or where did that come from?
This is a famous kind of Nicky Wire tablet of monolithic kind of like stone that appears out from nowhere.
Oh, it's why we love him, though.
And you've got to adhere to it as soon as he says it. What I understand, from what we're trying to communicate with that is that it's really strange that in the times that we live in today, whenever you talk to a music journalist, more often than not, they'll ask you about the state of the music industry. They'll ask you whether you still want to be in the industry. They'll talk about how it's changed with digital platforms and blah 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 and yada yada. And sometimes they don't talk about the music, and it's really strange. I didn't get into a band to talk about marketing. I didn't get into a band to talk about, being a business model. It's really strange. Music used to inhabit a real massive place in the cultural landscape. For a lot of people, God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols was just as important as the Guernica by Picasso. For a lot of people, Let It Be by the Beatles was just as important as Mona Lisa, as the Mona Lisa was to people in the Renaissance. Music's kind of place in the cultural landscape has been reduced because people just don't believe in the album as an art form. So I think we were just trying to say that, no, this is an album. And yeah, you may just listen to one track, you may listen to it for free, but this is an album, and we're defending the art form of the album because we don't want music to be a ringtone, just a ringtone. We don't want it to be just an added kind of like a little kind of compliment to a brand where you do a gig for kind of some fabulous super brand in kind of like, in Germany or Dubai or somewhere. We want it to be more than that. And I think that's what we're trying to communicate with that quote.
Right, I think your music's always been much more than that, to be honest, much more. You've got some interesting guests on this particular album.
Yeah, I think that was part of the thing of just it being our 10th studio album. We actually just wanted to try and celebrate it with some of the people that inspired us. It was as simple as that. John Cale is my favourite solo artist of all time, and he was somebody that proved to us when we were young that you could come from Wales and go and communicate with the outside world, which was, when you're young, and when we were living in the 80s in Wales, it was hard for us to see where our place in the world was at that point, because the place we came from was being systematically destroyed by Conservative government. So I've worked with John Cale many times, and I asked him to be on the record as a return favour for some stuff I've done for him, and amazingly he said yes. And it was the same with Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses and Ian McCulloch from Echo and the Bunnymen. These are people that have had indelible effects on us when we were young, and they all said yes. And
but what a tribute to you that they did that, because all three of those are difficult artists to pin down, let's face it.
It is unbelievable that kind of like Duff McKagan, who probably is one of the most iconic rock and roll bass players of the last 20 years or so, has said yes. And it's even more unbelievable when they fit into your band, actually sound like part of your band. Ian McCulloch, came to the studio in Cardiff and he sang on the song, and to actually be sat there in front of the speakers and hear him kind of like you're singing in your band and actually feeling as if he's part of your band is a truly amazing, inspiring thing for us. It gets rid of any cynicism you have in your body when something like that happens to you as a musician. And I still got to pinch myself at Ian McCulloch being on the record, because Echo and the Bunnymen is the first gig I ever saw.
Oh, really?
In Bristol. Yeah, Bristol Colston Hall in 1986 on the Ocean Rain tour. Me, Sean and Richey went with each other. It was either 95 or 86, I think we were all about 16 years old. And there's a picture of me again, Ian McCulloch's autograph, and I've got a truly awful burgundy bomber jacket on. So kind of like, it's moments like that when these people come and they say yes, and they become part of your band and they sound as if they're at home in your band. Those moments are truly brilliant things.
Now, I know you're just back from Czechoslovakia. How was that, and how are the Manics still greeted out in Europe and other continents?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, it was going to be a great gig in Czechoslovakia, but I went and caught a humdinger of a cold.
They're doing the rounds, aren't they, at the moment? They really are. It's
like having the Quatermass in your head, and I struggled through with the vocal and stuff. But since Anyway the Tigers, which was a bit of a comeback for us, I think we've just rediscovered what it's like to play in front of new audiences. Over the years, since End of the Tigers, we've played in places we haven't been to before. Places like Croatia, Latvia, Russia, and it's amazing to actually stand in front of an audience that have never seen you play Motorcycle Emptiness, and suddenly, they are kind of going bonkers, and that's good. A new experience for an old man such as myself is always good.
Oh, that's a spine-tingling story, actually. It hadn't occurred to me that you wouldn't have actually sung those songs out there before.
No, exactly. The places, like I said, is Latvia, Croatia, Poland, Hungary, Romania. You are aware that you're in front of an audience and they're saying, I wonder if they'll play Motorcycle Emptiness. And then you do, and they really appreciate it. And it's good to actually have that kind of brand new experience again at this point.
Now, I want to mention some dates close to home. You've got 3 East Midlands dates coming up, all of them in October. Tuesday the 12th, playing at the Assembly Rooms in Derby. Saturday the 16th, the Engine Shed in Lincoln. And then on Sunday the 31st at De Montfort Hall in Leicester. And we'll see you at one, if not all 3 of those gigs, I hope, James Dean Bradfield.
Oh, it'd be a pleasure. I mean, kind of like I can actually safely say I've had amazing experiences at all those venues. So kind of like, I'm absolutely looking forward to go back to all of them.
We're looking forward to it too. The single is It's Not War, Just the End of Love, and the album, which we can't wait to hear in full, Postcards from a Young Man. James Dean Bradfield, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, cheers, Jim, man. That was lovely. Thank you.